Well, welcome to chapel. Welcome to those of you who watch the recording. Today is one of two Interfaith Chapels that we do every semester. So it's planned by Interfaith Board, and then we put Ben to work, and he made this really fantastic slideshow. Today we're going to talk about different spring festivals and holidays that happen in different religions. And the next Interfaith Chapel will be during Peace Week, which is that week after Easter. So all the others will be kind of as chapel can be, but those are our two Interfaith Chapels. But first announcements, come to Simply Brethren tonight for our Zoom with BVS and Bethany, and then we'll be taking pictures to print cards to send to Timbercrest residents. Career fairs tomorrow, lots of great things happening. If you haven't signed up, I don't know if you can still, but try. And if you did sign up, go. And as of today, we have new resources headed our way for the meditation room, all different kinds. We focus mostly on prayer books, so instead of like being just big long books, there's actual resources of individual interfaith or other kinds of prayers there. So we're excited to get those in, probably early next week, so check it out. Anything I'm missing, Ben, or others? Religious life stuff, this is what I know about. And so before we jump into the spring festivals, we wanted to highlight the exhibit that Campus Interfaith Board, we've got someone here, the Campus Interfaith Board did for the Black History Month student exhibit. So the exhibit is up here in the front, and you can look at it either now or later, but we're gonna show a video of one of our Campus Interfaith Board members, Natalie Kotlin, who's gonna kind of explain a little bit of her favorite part of doing the project. And highlight a few of our alums. One of the exciting things that she'll talk about is Maddie Cunningham Dolby, and I'll let her explain the history of who Maddie is, but there's playing cards up there from our Brethren Forerunners card game, because Maddie is one of the new featured Brethren Forerunners that is in the card game. So without further ado, I'll stop sharing this so that we can share Natalie, wherever she is.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Kotlin and I'm a part of the Campus Interfaith Board. 2 weeks ago, I was tasked with creating a board highlighting some of the African American Manchester alumni that went into faith-based work after graduating. And this really gave me the opportunity to learn about a lot of interesting people, and so today I figured that I could share some of that information with you. I think one of the most influential people that I researched was Maddie Dolby Cunningham. She and her brother were the first African American students to attend Manchester and had to overcome many difficulties while they attended. Despite her hardships, Maddie graduated from Manchester in 1903 and later became the first woman to be installed in the ministry and the Brethren Church. So this absolutely just blows my mind. Not only was she a woman, but she was also a person of color in a time where segregation and racism were still extremely prevalent. So the fact that she became like the first person to, or the first woman to be a minister in a Brethren church is just absolutely insane, especially because she came from Manchester University. It blows my mind that someone that comes from here, did such big and influential things. But the person I had the most connection with during my research was Albert Cotton. Albert graduated from Manchester University in 1999 with a master's in accounting. In addition to his full-time job as an accountant, he volunteered as a youth minister at his church, and he also formed a youth church there as well. I genuinely had such an amazing time working with Albert. I had reached out to him asking for a biography and just a picture that he would like to be included into the presentation, and his response was just so enthusiastic, and it made me really excited to, complete this project. I loved the energy that he gave out and puts into the world every single day, and I feel really blessed that I could work with amazing people like that and, learn about Manchester alumni, which I feel like I never really would have if I wasn't given this opportunity. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that.
All right, so when you get a chance, can check out the display on your way out. And without any further ado, we will move on to the slideshow and we'll let Ben talk about it as we flip through it.
So this slideshow presents a lot of different spring festivals, obviously from a bunch of different religions from around the world. The first one is from Baha'i. Allah, I believe is how you pronounce that, is the last month in the Baha'i calendar, and it is dedicated to the Baha'i fast, during which people between the ages of 15 and 70 years of age don't eat or drink for 19 days to prepare for the Baha'i New Year, which the Baha'i New Year coincides with the spring equinox. And Randuz is an ancient Persian festival celebrating the new day. And it marks the end of the annual 19-day fast, and it's one of the 9 holy days of the year where work is suspended and children are exempted from attending school. Yeah.
Any observations or questions? I think it's interesting, like how many religions have different, fasting celebrations for different reasons. It's hard to think about going without food while the sun is up. But I really appreciate both. On to the next one.
So for Buddhism, Qigong Yi, I believe. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. But the term refers to one of the Zadesu collective term for the specific days, which show the change of seasons other than the 24 divisions of the old calendar. And the 7 days are on the spring equinox day, or around autumnal equinox. So they have a celebration for both the spring and autumn. It also refers to a Buddhist service for the dead, which is held during this period. So it's a time where they will go and honor like the dead, their ancestors. Yeah, I found that there are a lot of these cultures that have celebrate the spring equinox and the autumn, the autumnal equinox.
And is this a picture of one of those services likely?
I believe so,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It could be something completely different, but that is the closest thing
the best that you could find.
Some of these weren't.
Or a little more obscure. All right.
So Christianity is probably the one most people in America are most familiar with because it is popularized. But Easter is the principal festival of the Christian Church, which celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But something you might not know is Pascha is essentially the same thing. However, it is celebrated by the Greek Orthodox Church, and it is celebrated. I believe it's usually later,
Yeah.
but at some different point in time than mainstream Easter. And Pascha is a translation of the Greek word, which itself is a translation of the Arabic Pascha from the Hebrew Pascha. Okay.
Pesach?
Pesach, I think, yeah.
I didn't take
Pesach,
Hebrew, but-
which means Passover. Yes.
Justin Lasser is Orthodox. I don't know that he's Greek Orthodox. I'm not 100% sure. But we've had some students here who've been Orthodox and who have educated us around Pascha. It's pretty fantastic, has a lot of food traditions around it. And so when Ben found this, I was like, expand on that because it's pretty cool and I wish I could share more about it. But something that I didn't even realize existed, a whole other celebration within another Christian denomination that we in Church of the Bread and Circles at least don't observe. questions or comments about this one? Oh,
And then,
okay.
so Hinduism. There are two different festivals. There's that word.
Mahashivratri. That'll be my attempt.
It's a Hindu festival celebrated annually in honor of the god Shiva. It also refers to the night when Shiva performs the heavenly dance. It's a major festival in Hinduism, and this festival is solemn and marks a remembrance of overcoming darkness and ignorance in life. It is observed by remembering Shiva and chanting prayers, fasting, and meditating on ethics and virtues such as honesty, non-injury to others, charity, forgiveness, and the discovery of Shiva. And that festival kind of ties into the next one, which is Holi, which I've raised that. It's a popular ancient Hindu festival, also known as the Festival of Spring, the Festival of Colors, and the Festival of Love. The festival signifies the triumph of good over evil. Holi celebrates the arrival of spring, the end of winter, the blossoming of love, and for many, it's a festive day to meet others, play and laugh, forgive, and repair broken relationships. And then there's a video on the next slide that talks a bit more. So Islam, there are two festivals here. Laylat al-Miraj, the commemoration of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey from Mecca to Jerusalem, his ascent into heaven and return on the same night, and his receipt of Allah's commandment of the 5 compulsory daily prayers. And this celebration begins at dusk. And then Laylat al-Barat is also known as the Night of Forgiveness. It's a Muslim holiday celebrated annually, and it occurs 2 weeks before Ramadan on the 15th day of Islamic month, Shabbat. On this day, Muslims seek forgiveness for their sins and believe that their destinies are sealed. And then in Judaism, the Passover, also called Pesach, is a major Jewish holiday that occurs in the spring on the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan. In the Bible, Passover marks the exodus of the children of Israel from Egyptian slavery, when God passed over the houses of the Israelites during the last of the 10 plagues. When the temple in Jerusalem stood, the Paschal lamb.
Pascha. Yes. Pascha.
Passion. Thank you. Lamb was offered and eaten on Passover Eve, while the wave offering of barley was offered on the second day of the festival. Nowadays, in addition to the biblical prohibition of owning leavened foods for the duration of the holiday, the Passover Seder is one of the most widely observed rituals.
Do you have a video?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
And then in Shinto, Shubun no Hi, I think they pronounce it in the video that's after this, but the vernal equinox day is a public holiday in Japan that occurs on the date of the northward equinox in Japan Standard Time. Usually March 20 or 21st. It's the holiday celebrating the spring equinox, and it's part of a 7-day period of a festival called Haru no Higan. The Japanese would also take time to renew their lives by cleaning their homes and making life changes, such as starting or finishing school. I skipped. It was originally a time to visit loved ones' grave sites.
What day is it? Shunbun no Hi, or Vernal Equinox Day, is a holiday celebrating the progression of the sun into the northern hemisphere, usually around March 20th or March 21st. Shunbun no Hi is part of a 7-day period called Haru no Higan. It is one of the 2 points during the year, the other being autumn, where the hours of the day and night are equal, and it is the official change of the seasons. The day is reflectively celebrated, and it is a time to renew lives by cleaning homes and making life changes such as starting or finishing school or a new hobby. Shunbun no Hi is a national holiday, and the majority of people will have the day off, some returning to their places of birth to rejoice with family. The day's celebration will welcome the cycle of spring and mark the appreciation of renewed life after a long winter.
So remember, about the midpoint of March comes Shunbun no Hi.
For more information about Okinawa and MCCS events, visit mccsokinawa.com.
Is also called Pula. It's a 3-day-long festival, which normally falls in March.
There we go.
Pula, it's a big festival event for the Sikhs around the world. The fair held during Holi Hala at Anandapur is traditionally a 3-day event, but participants attend for a week, camping out and enjoying various displays of fighting prowess and bravery, and listening to kirtan, music, and poetry. For meals, which is an integral part of the Sikh institution, visitors sit together in queues, handaks, and eat vegetarian food of the langars. The event concludes on the day of Hala Mahal, with a long military-style procession near I'm not going to pronounce it.
Okay.
One of the 5 seats of temporal authority of the Sikhs.
And there is a lot of overlap between Hindu, Sikh, and Buddhist festivals and traditions, often just because of the geographical location of many of those religions. For those of you who knew Arpan Paul before he graduated last year, he grew up in Calcutta, and all of these festivals would happen because there were populations of people all over the city who would celebrate different things. And so even though you may not be Hindu or may not be Buddhist or whatever, like everyone just celebrated it because it's what you did in the city. And so he taught me a whole lot about some of the overlaps of those.
I think the Shinto one also overlaps.
That would make sense. Asian.
Because,
Yeah. And
then the final one, there's not really, this isn't technically a new festival, but for Rika Ostara, Eoster is a Western Germanic spring goddess. By way of the Germanic month bearing her name, she is the namesake of the festival of Easter in some languages. It's attested, she's attested solely by Bede in his 8th century work, The Reckoning of Time, where Bede states that during the equivalent of April, pagan Anglo-Saxons held feasts in her honor, but this tradition died out by his time, replaced by the Christian month, a celebration of the resurrection. So Easter started out as a Wiccan.
Or at least some of our symbolism that we get
Yes.
that is not maybe as Christian.
Mhm.
So same thing with Christmas. A lot of our Christmas tree, things like that, come from pagan tradition.
You can see she's holding a rabbit.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big part of Easter.
So we're almost over time, but I do want to thank Ben for doing that work and spend just a couple seconds talking about if there are overlaps that you saw or things that were interesting to you, anything new. I'm always fascinated by how much overlap there is between different things happening, which is kind of why we did this spring thing to begin with. We saw overlaps of celebrating the dead, remembering ancestors, new, all things new, like cleaning, and I'm trying to think of the Shinto. It was talking about like starting something new or new
Yeah,
hobbies,
yeah.
things like that, and how interesting it is, like all those things align with, weather patterns. Interesting stuff like that. Any observations or interesting things? Mhm.
I think one was Islam and then one was Judaism. It might have been, but if so, that might be because they're my favorite festival, but I think was Holi, because of all the like watercolor that they splash on themselves and they just dance and have a good time.
That's great. So when I said I was in a virtual conference this week, it's a conference of other folks in my job at other universities in the United States. And we've had conversations before of like larger schools with a lot of Hindu students making accommodations for Holi and how they celebrate and teach. And I remember hearing about the things they were doing and thinking, oh man, how cool would that be to be experiencing that, learning from the Hindu students on our campus and doing that. But we only have maybe one or two, and none of them have ever approached me for wanting to do that. But I've always thought it was really fun. Well, thank you all. Thanks for taking some time to learn together. Maybe open ourselves up to something new. Thank you for being in chapel. Thank you all, Libby, or whoever else might be with you, for joining us. And have a wonderful